It is not usual for me to be affected by or talk about the death of a famous person that I have not met. But then I have to say that Ozzy Osbourne wasn't exactly your regular famous person. He wasn't exactly a regular musician. He wasn't exactly the most talented person out there. But yet, the impact that Ozzy Osbourne has had on the music that I like, and by extension my life, it's undeniable. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. I've just woken up on 23rd of July 2025. Just heard the news about Ozzy Osbourne's passing, and I had to talk about this because, again, going back to the intro, I don't typically care so much about famous people, but Ozzy Osbourne is a little bit different. One, of course, you are kind of like, wow. Even when I was in university 21 years ago, when I heard of Ozzy Osbourne and Sabbath for the first time, I was like, wow, given all the shit that this guy has done, is he still alive? At that time, it was shocking. So it was shocking that he was alive all the way to 2025. But beyond the amazing longevity for somebody who had the life that he did, I think Ozzy Osbourne represents something much more to the spirit of rock and roll and metal than we realize. There are three parts to this. One part of it is obviously Black Sabbath are the precursors of metal, right? There's no doubt about that. And he was a singer of Black Sabbath. Of course, initially he started off by doing very simplistic things like following the guitar line on Iron Man, but slowly he became a little bit more complex. And again, it's one of the strange things where Ozzy Osbourne is not the greatest singer, but you cannot imagine Black Sabbath without him. Yes, of course you can, Dio, but you know what I mean. The original of Black Sabbath is something else, and then the Dio, the Heaven and Hell Years, is something else. So there's that. The second thing is, Ozzy Osbourne had this insane knack of making amazing songs. You could say he did not write any of his songs, but think about the kind of career he's had even beyond Black Sabbath. Think about the kind of songs: Crazy Train, Mr. Crawley, um, even the newer ones for me, Mama I'm Coming Home or Dreamer, right? It's just, there's something there. Some people have a knack. Some people don't have to be necessarily the best musicians, but they have something about them that brings out the best music. And there is no doubt that Ozzy Osbourne is in that very unique category. I was thinking about it. Even if we were to play a Ozzy Osbourne gig right now, we could cover such a broad spectrum in terms of sound. The ballady like Dreamer, the crazy guitar solo somebody would have to figure out of Mr. Crowley, the sheer just the sheer heaviness and fun of playing Black Sabbath. That's very, very unique. And also, I think Ozzy Osbourne had this incredible talent for spotting talent. I mean, think of the number of people who were, or rather, think of the impact of the people who were spotted or brought to the limelight by Ozzy Osbourne. Think about Randy Rhoads, right? Think about Zakk Wylde, right? These people have become institutions on their own right, but Ozzy is the one who kind of brought them out. So there's that. It is again something remarkable about the man that on one hand, you have this completely wild, completely undisciplined character, in a way representing that crazy side of rock and roll. Or on the same end, you have somebody who's created such a lasting impact that a bunch of suit-wearing executives couldn't, even if they sat and strategized all day and threw a bunch of money at the problem. They would have not been able to kind of do what Ozzy Osbourne did. And yeah, that in a way summarizes not only the enigma or the contradiction of the man, but the enigma or the contradiction of rock and roll, where on one hand, the pursuit of human excellence is done via stringent discipline and hard work and really grinding and grinding and grinding. And yes, that does create results. But sometimes human excellence just happens and you don't know why it happens. It is difficult to explain. It's like catching a genie in a bottle. You catch it once, you can never catch it again. And it's the unexplainable. It's the unfathomable. And that kind of is what rock and roll is. Right? It is about going against the grain. It's about doing the unconventional, and yet somehow ending up with something extremely excellent. And I think no one represents that more than Ozzy Osbourne, who's not a great singer, who's not the most disciplined person, who's not anything, but somehow he just was a great impact. There's that. I want to end this story by telling you how I got introduced to Ozzy Osbourne. So when I came to university in 2004 in Singapore, at that time I wasn't too much into rock. I wasn't playing guitar yet, and I wasn't too much into rock music. I was into some English music because, of course, I'm from India, so there's English music, and then there is Hindi or Indian music. So for English music, I had heard the Beatles and Elvis Presley, mostly because I had read about them in an encyclopedia, and then because of that, when I'd gone to a music store, I picked up their cassettes. So I had heard of the two of them, and I had heard of Pink Floyd because my father knew Pink Floyd. So when I went to university, my roommate, we what you do is at that particular point in time in the early 2000s, you name your computer because you're on a local network, right? You used to be on a local network in the university. So I named my computer Graceland. Graceland. In fact, my computer is still called Graceland because I was and am a big Elvis fan. And my roommate named his computer Birmingham. And I was like, why have you named your computer after an English city? He was like, I've not named it after an English city. I said, huh? He says, no, I've named it after Black Sabbath. I was like, what's Black Sabbath? Then he said, Black Sabbath is from Birmingham, and they are the original metal band. And then he showed me this cassette. I think it was Reunion, Sabbath Reunion or something. This worn out cassette. He said, I've been playing this cassette for the very longest time. I got it like 2 years ago. It's the best ever. So I didn't listen to it on the cassette because I didn't have a cassette player. So we, of course, illegally or whatever, downloaded, or someone else illegally downloaded probably, and we copied it from them. We got Reunion from Sabbath, and we listened to the whole thing, and then we heard all the other songs, and I was like, wow, what is this? And it turns out that when we were so inspired, of course, he was always a Sabbath fan, that when we formed our band about a year later, and then we played our first gig, there were 3 songs that we played. One had to be a Floyd song. I'd always wanted to play Comfortably Numb, even though I'd just been playing guitar for a year. So that was a disaster. Or it was whatever. They were ambitious, but maybe not excellent. There was Green Day, because this was 2004. So as you can imagine, Green Day was in the airs, and we wanted to play something that was popular. That was the pop song that we were playing for the crowd, the Green Day, Wake Me Up When September Ends. And the third one that we had to play, which is the first riff I ever learned how to play, the first solo I ever learned how to play, it was Paranoid.
It's on here. Okay, ready?
Let's go.